Chapter 1: The Madness Years.
As the sun rose over China in the year 1967, a nation held its breath. Tensions simmered between the hardened revolutionaries of the past and the passionate young idealists just coming of age. The Cultural Revolution was in full swing, and nobody was safe. Yizhetai, a distinguished physics professor at Tsinghua University, was refusing to be swayed by the deafening crescendo of the revolution around him. He was a man of science, not of political whims and wills. The blackboard was his battleground, the chalk his weapon of choice. The students at Tsinghua University are on a professor-torturing rampage, accusing them of being bourgeois reactionary academics. Many of the profs have taken their own lives or given up their beliefs, crushed under the weight of mass humiliation. Yet, our guy, Yizhetai, a physics genius, is a rock in this turbulent sea. He's hauled into a struggle session, essentially a brutal public trial/torture session. They want him to change his mind, to bend to their will, but he refuses to do so. As he stands before the student body, the physics professor is physically tortured. His wife, once a loyal partner, has turned against him, berating him for teaching Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, which she believes is against communism. The situation quickly spirals out of control as the students begin to beat the professor with a copper belt. The torture takes a dark turn when Yizhetai mentions he believes in the possibility of a god, a big no-no for the fanatically communist students. Like a pack of rabid wolves, the young girls in the room attack the professor, and within minutes, he is dead. The students flee the auditorium, but one person remains, the professor's daughter, Wenjie. She watches in horror as her father is killed before her eyes. Chapter 2: Silent Spring. Fast forward 2 years. The professor's daughter, Wenjie, is stuck chopping trees in the wilderness of Inner Mongolia, part of the government's production and construction corps. As the trees topple, it's like watching history being erased. Wenjie can't shake off the memory of her father's tragic death amidst this tree-mageddon. A reporter for the Corps shares an American book he read, Silent Spring, which he reveals has inspired him to protest the government's reckless deforestation. He even lets her borrow the book, that warns her to be stealthy about it. Reading the book, Wenjie finds her view of humanity darkening. She concludes that humans are inherently evil, needing an outside force to jolt them awake to their moral shortcomings. After returning the book, Yi visits Bai at his home near Radar Peak, a place straight out of an X-Files episode. With a massive, weather-altering, illness-inducing antenna at the peak, and the mountain itself being a heavily guarded military base, it's all kinds of suspicious. Bai wants to send a letter protesting the environmental destruction to Beijing's top brass. He's nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, so Wenjie offers to copy the letter for him. Fast forward 3 weeks, and Yi is summoned by director Zhang. Accused of writing Bai's controversial letter, she finds herself caught in a dangerous misunderstanding. Realizing she's been framed by Bai, she's left with no defense. Imprisoned and interrogated, she faces a choice: sign the document, accept the false accusations against her father, and perhaps escape punishment. But Yi, much like her father, holds firm. She chooses truth over expedience. In response, they resort to cold, brutal punishment, pouring freezing water over Yi, tormenting her into submission. Her world spins, the borders of reality and fantasy blurring. She sees her dead sister and faceless others, waving flags in some twisted parade of her subconscious. As she blacks out, we're left with a sense of foreboding. The journey is just beginning, and we can only hope that Wenjie, like the Silent Spring, finds her voice and her strength amidst the trials to come. Chapter 3: Red Coast 1. Wenjie awakens, not in the familiar comfort of her bed, but in a throbbing helicopter, hovering in the cloudy realms above China. Waking up sick, disoriented, and enveloped by the thundering of the helicopter blades, she's greeted by two plowmen. Yi, caught in the throes of her disorientation, overhears fragments of a conversation between them. They speak in hushed tones of her tumultuous past and the need for someone as isolated as her at the enigmatic Red Coast base. A shiver runs down her spine. What did they have in store for her? With the steady whir of the helicopter blades as her only company, Yi arrives at the behemoth that is Radar Peak. There, it hits her, she is sequestered, cut off from the world she once knew, plunged into a realm where mystery lurks in every shadow. Whatever she is about to begin at Radar Peak, it's not temporary. It's permanent, like the unyielding granite of the mountain they stand upon. She's on the cusp of a journey with no return. As Yi surveys the scene, her eyes are drawn to the giant antenna, reaching out like a metallic titan. It hums with life, its transmissions creating a whirlwind of strange effects, birds dropping dead from the sky, a grim rain in this silent spring. Yet, in the face of all these mysterious happenings, Yi is left in the dark, unable to comprehend the purpose, the target of this colossal antenna. The whispers of the wind carry unspoken secrets as our chapter closes. What is the true nature of Radar Peak? What lies ahead for you, Wenjie? Chapter 4. The Frontiers of Science. Fast forward to over 40 years later, and Professor Wang Mayo, who specializes in nanotechnology, gets an unexpected visit from a Shuqiang, a cop. He's curious about his contact with a cryptic group called the Frontiers of Science, a global brain trust of elite thinkers. He pushes Wang for information. It's all rather puzzling, especially when he invites Professor Wang to a secretive meeting in the Battle Command Center. That afternoon, Wang walks into the Battle Command Center, and it's chaos central. Sleep-deprived generals, including surprise, some from NATO police, and renowned academics are everywhere. The man in charge? General Chang. Police officer, she is interested in Wang's work in nanomaterials, stuff so tough it could slice a car in half. He hands Wang a list of physicists, asking if he recognizes any of the names. Then, he starts questioning Wang about the potential to use nanomaterials for crime. Not the line of questioning Wang was hoping for. Then comes the bombshell: each physicist on the list has committed suicide in the past 2 months, including Yang Dong just 2 days ago. Her boyfriend, Ding Yi, hands Wang her suicide note. It's a cry of despair, claiming physics has never existed and will never exist. Ding explains the frontiers of science was wrestling with the limits of knowable physics, which started breaking down as it got more complex. Choosing not to return home, Wang heads to Ding Yi's place, Yang Dong's boyfriend, as though this day hasn't been eventful enough. Chapter 5. A Game of Pool. Wang finds himself in Ding's apartment, an almost desolate space that echoes with unspoken hopes and dreams. It's clear that Ding had pictured a rosy future with Yang Dong in this minimalist haven, plans for a family, laughter, love. But alas, Yang remained distant, a puzzle piece that refused to fit. And then, oh, what do we have here? A pool table, perfect for breaking the ice, and also the perfect metaphor for collisions in a particle accelerator. Can you see the look on Wang's face as he realizes this? Priceless, I tell you. As Ding's pool cue strikes, balls colliding and scattering, he delves into some hardcore science. He talks about the new revelations from particle accelerators that have blown the lid off the sacred, invariant principles of physics. In layman's terms, folks, the rulebook of the universe just got tossed out the window. There are no one-size-fits-all laws of physics. Mind-blowing, right? Wang, being the quick thinker he is, quickly connects the dots. The heart-wrenching despair he's seen in the scientific community suddenly makes sense. This could be why scientists like Yang Dong surrendered, not just their work, but also their lives. It's like waking up one day and finding out the ground beneath you isn't solid. Scary stuff, guys, as their game winds down, and before Wang steps out, Ding slips him an address. It's Yang Dong's mother's. A visit, he suggests, might offer some clarity, or maybe more questions. Who knows in this roller coaster of a tale? Chapter 6: The Shooter and the Farmer. Wang, our resident scientist, wanders the city streets, camera in hand, his eyes desperately seeking tranquility amidst the chaos. His mind, however, is far from at peace, dwelling on a peculiar theory, the shooter, and the farmer a metaphor for the unsettling absence of universal laws in physics. Now, things take a Twilight Zone-esque twist when Wang develops his film. Nestled in the heart of his negatives, a countdown appears. We're talking 200 hours, about 50 days. A cryptic message from another dimension, or just a technical glitch. Only Wang's photos have this eerie timer. He even gives his camera a thorough once-over, tries others, but it's like the numbers are haunted, they just stick around. Creepy, right? Determined to get to the bottom of this, Wang visits Shen Yufei, a science lady lost in a virtual reality game 3-body net. She doesn't bat an eyelash at Wang's countdown catastrophe, and just tells him to quit his work on nanomaterials. Helpful, huh? At his wit's end, Wang finally succumbs to exhaustion, and his dreams are invaded by the relentless countdown clock. Waking up, the numbers are now tattooed onto his vision. His visit to the doctor earns him an amused shrug and a suggestion of more time off. At his lab, his nanomaterial machine's been acting up. Despite earlier objections, Wang agrees to shut it down for a couple of days. As soon as he gives the order, the countdown number vanishes. Coincidence? I think not. Just when you think things can't get weirder, Shen steps back into the picture. Wang, now as prickly as a porcupine, demands answers, and she cryptically alludes to some higher power at play. Shen hands Wang a Morse code chart and tasks him with a mission. Measure the cosmic microwave background in 3 days' time. The entire universe will flicker, she promises. What in the name of science does that mean? Well, you'll have to tune in to the next chapter to find out. Chapter 7: 3-Body, King Wen of Zhou, and the Long Night.
Hold on to your V-suits, folks. Wang, our nerdy yet daring hero, dips his toes into the ominously titled VR game, 3-Body Net. And boy, does he find himself in a cybernetic world of mystery and chaos, a place where the sun throws more tantrums than a 2-year-old.
Suddenly, he's in a land as barren as my fridge on a Monday morning. But it doesn't stay that way for long. Wang's solitude is interrupted by 2 men king, Wen of Zhou and his loyal follower, who cart around a sand clock. Now, you'd think they'd use the sun to tell time, but surprise, surprise, in this world, the sun is not reliable at all. You see, in this game, time is a fickle mistress. You've got your stable eras, where the sun follows the rules, consistently rising every day and providing a consistent temperature. Then there's the chaotic eras, where the sun doesn't rise regularly. Instead, it's bipolar. It can either completely disappear, plunging the world into sub-zero temperatures, or zoom too close to the planet, setting everything on fire. Oftentimes, it does both in rapid succession. Things get really crazy when Wang watches the sun hopscotch across the sky, and he's soon freezing cold. But watch out. Out of the blue, the sun rushes towards them, heating up the world rapidly. This game is no walk in the park. With the sun acting up and scorching everything in sight, the trio has to scramble for shade or risk becoming crispy critters. Water is so precious in this world that folks dehydrate themselves to conserve it. Yes, you heard that right, dehydration is a thing. Fast forward through their long journey, and Wang and King witness 2 flying stars, the heralds of a stable era. As things stabilize, King Wen reveals the aim of the game to create a calendar of the chaotic and stable eras. Civilization can only progress during the stable eras, and the people must dehydrate just before the chaotic era, or else they died due to extreme heat or extreme cold. King Wen then presents his own predictions. The sun rises as predicted, and people rehydrate like instant noodles, jubilantly rebuilding their lives. But then plot twist. The stable era ends prematurely. The sun pulls a no-show, and civilization crumbles once again in the extreme cold. Fast forward through a snowy apocalypse, and Wang is left staring at the 3 spinning stars like a bad case of celestial vertigo. Game over. With his health bar low and his mind buzzing with questions, Wang finds himself back in reality, or whatever passes for reality after such an experience. Now that's what I call a wild ride. Chapter 8. Wenjie. Our hero Wang, who's just been through a roller coaster in the surreal 3-body game, can't shake off his lingering thoughts about the game's chaotic era. It's simple on the surface, but peeling back the layers, it's a world of astounding complexity, a riddle wrapped in an enigma. Now, let's travel back in time a bit. Remember when Wang was just a student? He recalls a fascinating lesson on information theory. It's like comparing a beautifully detailed painting and a wispy cloud photograph. Surprisingly, the cloud is more information-rich. Mind-boggling, right? That's the paradox of the 3-body game, so simplistic, yet packed to the brim with detail. Next stop on Wang's mystery tour. Yongdong's mother's apartment complex. He lends a hand to an elderly lady wrestling with her groceries, only to realize she's none other than Wenjie scientist extraordinaire and Yongdong's mom. Surprise! Yi's apartment is a child-friendly haven, complete with a bunch of neighborhood kids she's looking after. She shows Wang around, including Yong's room. Sparse yet intriguing, the room is furnished with tree stump furniture, talk about going green, and a picture of Yong, and Yi against a mountain backdrop with a giant antenna looming behind them. The young girl looks terrified, adding an eerie undertone to this already intriguing tale. In the midst of this, Wang discovers a notebook filled with Yong's abstract drawings. He listens to Yi's remorse over introducing her daughter to the complex world of science too early, fearing it left her with nothing tangible when her scientific theories fell apart. Even though many scientists are choosing the tragic path of suicide, Yi holds a unique perspective. She believed her daughter, as a woman, should have been more resilient and adaptable. Before his departure, Wang seeks advice from Yi on where to observe cosmic background radiation, following Shen Yufei's instructions. Yi guides him to a place in Beijing's suburbs and promises to connect him with a former student working there. As he's leaving, Yi, ever the motherly figure, notices Wang's exhaustion and offers him ginseng for rejuvenation. This touching gesture solidifies a promise in Wang's heart. He'll visit Yi again. Phew! Talk about an eventful day. What new twists and turns await us in the next chapter? Remember, life is like the 3-body game complex, unpredictable, and filled with surprise encounters. Chapter 9. The universe flickers. Wang is at it again, this time driving up a steep mountain to the National Astronomical Center. His mission? To observe the elusive cosmic background radiation. He runs into Sha Ruishan, a former student of Wenjie. Sha, bless his heart, gets a good chuckle out of Wang's request to observe cosmic radiation fluctuations in a single night. He insists changes like that take millions of years. But being a good sport, Sha pulls up the monitor for the radiation probe. If Wang's seemingly impossible fluctuation were to happen, a flat green line would burst into vibrant red waves. As the night wears on, Sha shares Wenjie's life story, including the loss of her father, her stint in the Greater Kingdom Mountains, and her mysterious vanishing act. Now, here's where things get real trippy. Around 1 a.m., the green line on the Cobe monitor turns red, morphing into a waveform just as Wang had predicted. Shocked, they verify this strange phenomenon with other probes, all showing the same results. Using his code-breaking skills, Wang decrypts the Morse code message hidden in the radiation waves and finds it matches the countdown he'd seen before. Cue the suspense music. With a sense of alarm, Sha insists that Wang gets a pair of 3K glasses for direct observation of the background radiation. Sporting the glasses, he's awestruck by the flickering universe, the pulsating remnants of the Big Bang from billions of years ago. A palpable sense of an indescribable, cosmic entity fills him with fear and awe. Unable to bear the overwhelming spectacle, he removes the glasses and tries to gather his wits. In the throes of a disquieting realization, Wang contacts the VR game lady who sent him there, Shen Yufei. She admits she's clueless about what happens at the end of the countdown. Wang can't help but wonder if this is a harbinger of global catastrophe. And just when he thinks he's alone in his despair, enter Xiqiang, our smoky policeman from a previous chapter, puffing away on his cigarette. Oh boy, does Wang ever get a break? Find out next time. Remember, the universe may flicker, but our curiosity never dims. Chapter 10, Dashi. Enter Dashi, our favorite rough around the edges, yet good-hearted cop. He's been following Wang, and what's his remedy for Wang's cosmic-induced panic? Good all-liquid courage. That's right, he takes Wang out for drinks, encouraging him to spill the story of his last 24 hours. Despite the staggering revelations, she doesn't seem to be ruffled. Between sips, he's more focused on his own daily grind. His advice to Wang? Drink, sleep, and stay grounded in the here and now instead of fretting over the universe. But wait, it's not all pub chatter and life advice. She shares a series of odd happenings that have been troubling him: crimes against academic institutions, a surge in audacious environmental activism, rustic movie themes taking center stage, and well-funded cults gaining momentum. Whoa, sounds like the world's got some pretty eccentric stuff brewing. She puts his detective hat on, suggesting someone's trying to torpedo scientific research, an inkling shared by General Chang. Wang, intrigued, asks about the war Chang alluded to. Unfortunately, our lovable cop, she is in the dark about that, only knowing about China's partnership with NATO and a sudden wave of fear among the normally fearless. She's parting wisdom for Wang. Get back to work and keep playing the three-body game during his downtime guess. Everyone needs a hobby, huh? With a wink and a nod, she speeds off before Wang can even say thanks. What a guy! And that's it for this chapter, folks. It seems we're entering a world where the ordinary and the extraordinary collide, making for an unforgettable journey. Remember, in the words of Xi, sometimes you've got to focus on the drink in front of you and let the universe do its thing. Chapter 11. Three-body, Mozi, and fiery flames. Post his drinking session with the friendly cop, Dashi, our hero Wang purchases a V-suit and promptly dives back into the virtual reality game Three-Body. Time and reality warp again in the game as eons seem to have passed and the palace of King Zhou morphs from Egyptian to Aztec. Wang's curiosity is piqued by a peculiar machine that's powered by enslaved individuals, manipulating a copper sphere in seemingly random ways. Wang's exploration is interrupted by the arrival of a man introducing himself as Mozi. This tall figure acquaints Wang with the unfortunate fate of previous civilizations. All of them were wiped out by the brutal chaotic eras, with the most advanced civilization, number 139, reaching up to the Steam Age before being destroyed. According to Mozi's calculations, a long, stable era is anticipated. As the world starts to rehydrate, Wang uses a shaded telescope to observe the sun, noticing striking differences between the game's sun and the real one. He marvels at the game designer's intricacy, embedding layers of information within seemingly simple images. Intriguingly, Mozi has a theory of his own. He envisions the universe as two nested hollow spheres floating amidst a sea of fire. The holes in these spheres let in the light of the sun and stars, while their irregular movements are dictated by the fiery sea. But Mozi's model raises more questions than it answers, especially when it comes to those mysterious flying stars. As time zooms ahead in the game, Mozi's prediction of a long, stable era seems to come true. Wang examines the game's sun and finds its structure intriguingly different from Earth's sun. The game designers, he realizes, have layered in vast amounts of hidden data within seemingly simple imagery. Wang's observations continue until one day, the sun doesn't rise. Although the impending collapse of civilization seems imminent, Mozi, full of conviction in his calculations, insists that the sun is just skipping a few days and will rise soon enough. And indeed it does, but with a devastating speed that sets the world on fire, consuming Mozi and Wang in its fiery onslaught. Wang wakes from the game, shaken and introspective. The boundaries between the game's reality and the real world blur, creating an unsettling feeling. He seeks solace in work, but can't keep his escalating sense of dread at bay for long. Opting for a change of scenery, he pays a visit to Wenjie, who dismisses his queries about her past during the Cultural Revolution, preferring instead to discuss her experiences at the Red Coast base. Chapter 12. Red Coast 2. Let's dive into the mysteriously shrouded walls of Red Coast base, with Wenjie as our eyes and ears. Like a rookie in the big leagues, he starts off with seemingly menial tasks, her unique civilian attire setting her apart in this military stronghold. You can feel the tedium eating into her, the monotony of the same old day in, day out. But you see, he's a trooper. As the days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, her colleagues begin to crumble under the crushing monotony, seeking transfers from the base. In the meantime, our heroine, with steely resilience, grows in stature within the base, slowly shedding the shackles of her superior's suspicions. Commissar Lei, an imposing figure, starts showing some warmth towards Yi. He pulls back the curtain a bit, revealing that they're not just fixing broken bolts here. Nope. They are, in fact, orchestrating disruption of enemy satellites using an unbelievably large-scale microwave antenna. Whoa, talk about raising the stakes. Next, Yi is transferred to the cutting-edge monitoring department, where sophisticated tech hums around her. Here, she's confronted by a massive radio receiver designed to eavesdrop on the faintest whispers from the deep abyss of space. Despite grappling with her new role, the ever-inquisitive Yi, like a detective piecing together a cryptic puzzle, starts noticing odd discrepancies in the base's operations. Something's fishy, folks. The climax of the chapter hits us like a freight train. Yi is summoned to the base's nerve center, the main office. There, surrounded by the grim faces of the officers, she is offered a mind-blowing revelation. Yi is given a chance to reject this explosive knowledge. But guess what? Yi, ever the truth seeker, chooses to know. She wants the truth. Chapter 13. Red Coast 3. So, picture this. A top-secret report from the 1960s, aged and yellowed, a secret waiting to be unfurled. It talks about scientific philosophy, the gradualistic versus saltatory modes of science. It's like the classic tortoise and hare race, where gradualistic science is slow and steady, applying theories bit by bit. Saltatory science, however, jumps headfirst into practical applications like a sprinting hare, often leading to a technology leap. Now, picture a global race with NATO and the Soviet Union trying to leapfrog each other to achieve these rapid technological advancements. China, the report suggests, should be gunning for these saltatory leaps, these daring vaults into the cutting-edge spheres of physics, biology, computer science, and wait for it, SETI. That's right, folks, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Imagine a quest not just to look beyond our skies, but to venture into the deep cosmic abyss, seeking the unknown, the alien. Our little Red Coast base isn't just about satellites anymore. It's a player in the grand cosmic opera, competing with international efforts like the United States' Project Ozma and the Soviet Union's sprawling radio telescope system. The report hints at potential risks if extraterrestrials hear only their voices, urging China to speak up to ensure a balanced cosmic dialogue. The report then unveils Red Coast's grand purpose, the search for alien life and the potential to make contact. They've developed a complex code based on the universal language of mathematics. Imagine a space-age Rosetta Stone designed to commune with cosmic civilizations. Now, what to say to our interstellar neighbors? That's the question. Initial drafts are too earthly, too critical of superpowers like the US and USSR. But the final message, oh, it's a beaut. It speaks of human civilization's triumphs, its struggles against inequality, and a burning desire to create an ideal civilization in harmony with extraterrestrial life. The report concludes with a resonating affirmation of the long-term importance of this endeavor. Aliens, as neutral observers, could provide a unique perspective on the saga of humanity. Well, folks, this chapter truly takes the story to a whole new level, making us consider not just the story unfolding on our little blue planet, but the possibilities of the grand cosmos. What's in store for Yi and the rest of the gang at the Red Coast base? Stick around to find out. Chapter 14. Red Coast 4. Yi Wenjie starts talking about cosmic theory, the classification of civilizations. Type 1 can use the total energy output of their planet. Type 2 can harness all the power of their star, and Type 3 can match the energy output of an entire galaxy. Sheesh, that's some mind-boggling stuff, right? But Yi drops the bomb. Even two Type 1 civilizations wouldn't be able to chat because their radio signals would just be too weak. So, what hope is there for us mere Earthlings? Things start to look bleak for the scientists at the Red Coast base. Yi and her team lose hope in the existence of alien life, let alone the possibility of contact. Our mighty Red Coast base, once the beacon of hope, is no longer looking for extraterrestrial life. It's a crushing defeat, folks. As Red Coast's clearance is lifted and it diversifies into other projects, Yi's personal life takes a turn when she marries a researcher on the base. However, tragedy strikes, claiming the lives of both Commissar Lei and Yi's husband in a base accident, and shortly after, Yang Dong is born. The base eventually transitions to civilian use, and then, like an old ship, it is abandoned. It's a melancholic time for Yi. She reflects on the monumental personal challenges she faced in her cosmic quest, the feelings of abandonment, and the gut-wrenching insignificance that comes from realizing you might be alone in the universe. Our chapter ends on a bittersweet note, with Wang feeling a deep sense of empathy for Yi, recognizing her profound loss as he prepares to leave. It's a chapter filled with defeat, hope, and an understanding of the vast, seemingly indifferent universe. But hey, we're not alone. We have each other, and of course, our unfolding saga. Chapter 15. Three-Body, Copernicus, Universal Football, and Tri-Solar Day. Wang is on his way home, and his mind is doing cartwheels, somersaults, the works. The events of the last 2 days are all tangled up like spaghetti with the Red Coast knowledge he's just gulped down. Seeking some mental tranquility, he dives headfirst into the game world of Three-Body, rebranding himself as Copernicus, a nod to the revolutionary Polish astronomer. In the game, he lands smack dab in the middle of a scene straight out of Game of Thrones, a world reminiscent of a European fantasy, complete with Gothic palaces and ancient Greek attire. Once in the Great Hall, Wang meets notable figures from history: Pope Gregory, Aristotle, and Galileo. They engage in a passionate discussion, comparing and contrasting Eastern and Western approaches to knowledge. In this surreal setting, Galileo jests about the Eastern preference for meditation and epiphany, swearing by observation and experimentation for understanding the world. Wang, ready to match wits, brings up Mozi, an advocate of the same methods, only to be met with dismissive scoffs. It's time for Wang to take center stage as he presents his grand theory of the three-body problem. This world of the game revolves around not one, not two, but three suns. He envisions a cosmic football match with the three suns as players and their planet as the football. The stable eras are periods of predictable orbits, while the chaotic eras are triggered by the disruptive gravitational pull of the other suns. It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? Now, if you think the scholars responded with awe, well, no. They did what any group of self-respecting scholars would do. They laughed him off the stage. And hold onto your hats, Pope Gregory condemns him to be burned at the stake. Overreaction much? Talk about cancel culture. Just as the flames start to lick at Wang's feet, the game world is suddenly thrown into chaos. Three suns burst into the sky, echoing Wang's vision, and the planet is torn apart in their gravitational tug-of-war. Just as the world collapses, a message informs Wang of the destruction of Civilization 183 by a tri-solar day. Yet, in recognition of his breakthrough, he is granted access to the next level of the game. So, ladies and gents, in the immortal words of the Beatles, here comes the sun. Or should I say, sons? Chapter 16. The Three-Body Problem. Just as Wang is caught in the whirlwind of thoughts from his immersive game experience, he's summoned to the office of Police Officer Shi's, only to be met by an intriguing and eccentric math genius, Wei Cheng, who is the husband of Shen Yufei, the gal that was also playing the three-body VR game. Wei Cheng, the math genius, starts pouring out his life story. He's a guy who's so naturally talented in geometry that he sees shapes as numbers. But why, he's also plagued by laziness. He searches for meaning, for peace, and guess where he finds it? In a Buddhist monastery of all places. During his stay, he fills his mind with a captivating dance of three spheres to symbolize the chaos of his existence. Unbeknownst to him, he's stumbled onto the infamous three-body problem. This mathematical conundrum has bamboozled the best minds, but Wei thinks he's got the answer. An evolutionary algorithm. There's just one small hiccup. He needs more computing power than the monastery can offer. As Wei works on this groundbreaking idea in the monastery, he encounters Shen Yufei, who takes an interest in his work and promises to aid him with computational resources. Now, here's where things take a twist. Wei and Shen tie the knot, not out of love or passion, but because they share this burning desire to solve the three-body problem. Talk about an unconventional love story. But hold on tight, because it gets even crazier. Wei drops a bombshell. He's been receiving death threats. If he continues his research, they will kill him. However, his wife, Shen, in a plot twist worthy of a soap opera, threatens to kill him if he stops. I mean, who needs Netflix when you have this kind of drama unfolding? Our trio, Wang, Zhou, and Shi, arrive at Shen's house, only to find she's been shot dead. The plot thickens, and Wei confesses about a conflict between two groups, the Adventists and Redemptionists, who want to bring a mysterious Lord to Earth. Both factions have contrasting expectations on what happens next. One wants this Lord to punish humanity, while the other hopes for a happier outcome. The chapter closes with the math whiz Wei entrusting Wang with his life's work, in a gesture that screams, "With great power comes great responsibility." Remember, in the world of the three-body problem, the difference between a sunrise and a sunset might just be your perspective. Chapter 17. Three-body, Newton, von Neumann, the first emperor, and tri-solar Syzygy. Wang Myo-logs back into the VR video game, and this time it simulates a mashup of a Western Egyptian movie set, because why not, right? I mean, who doesn't love a good cultural cocktail? Guess who's waiting for Wang in this fantastical world? None other than Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz. But here's the kicker, they're not just historical figures. They're depicted as soldiers dueling over the invention of calculus. Talk about a battle of mathematical proportions. Newton is all like, with calculus, we can solve the three-body problem easy peasy. But then von Neumann, this random third guy, goes all buzzkill. Nah mate, not so fast. Wang suggests using a computer. Newton stares at him like he's grown a second head because, well, it's the past and computers haven't been invented yet. Von Neumann, who Wang figures out is a real player, not some AI construct, says, "How about a human computer? Let's pitch this to the Emperor Qin." You know, because when you have a crazy idea, it's always best to pitch it to the guy in charge of beheadings. Our trio, Newton, von Neumann, and Wang, waltz into the palace to meet Emperor Qin. They put together a demonstration of the human computer. Von Neumann starts by labeling 3 soldiers: input 1, input 2, and output. Just like a basic circuit. But instead of electricity, they've got flags. Black for 0, white for 1 binary coding, baby. This makeshift computer starts doing computations, and the game's time accelerates. Suddenly, we've got a football field of human circuitry. They make a huge motherboard, aptly named Qin 10. Now, there's a problem. And it's not just any problem, it's a big one. Just when everything seems to be going well, there's a glitch in the human matrix and Emperor Qin orders the faulty components to be executed. Ouch! Talk about a hard reboot. But let's not dwell on the details, because after a bit of tinkering, they get the motherboard working again. The human computer gets to work, performing calculations for a whopping 16 months. They predict the dawn of a stable era. But hold on, because the joy is short-lived. They soon discover that a trisolar syzygy is approaching. Gravity starts to diminish, and everything starts to float apart. The game planet and its inhabitants morph into amorphous blobs. It's like watching a surreal Salvador Dali painting come to life. Civilization number 184, like all the ones prior, gets wiped out. Wang, witnessing this cataclysm, decides it's time to log off. But just when he thought he was out, he receives a call from a game administrator. They're asking for his personal information, and to top it off, they invite Wang to a meetup for game players. Curiosity level over 9,000. Chapter 18. Meet up. Cue the dramatic music, because we are diving into an intriguing coffee shop rendezvous with other players of the 3-body VR game. Wang walks into this cafe, expecting a crowd, only to find just 6 people waiting. Quite the contrast from the hordes of human-computer soldiers. And boy, is this a motley crew. You've got your philosopher talking about the existential nature of the game, your novelist discussing the surreal universe within it, your business tycoon musing about potential financial implications, a diligent reporter furiously taking notes, and a scientist trying to rationalize the outlandish elements. They're a bit like Avengers, but the only world they're saving is in a video game. Enter Pan Han, the master of this digital congregation, who drops the bomb the planet of Trisolaris, the backbone of the 3-body game, exists in real life. He suggests that these wild Trisolarans are real, and they come with lightning-quick communication abilities that make your 5G network look like 2 cans connected with a string. Pan steers the conversation to the real question. How would they feel if these aliens actually landed on Earth? Some attendees are all for rolling out the red carpet for our new interstellar neighbors, seeing them as a potential upgrade from our current societal state. The others feared complete annihilation of the human race. Pan Han, ever the stirring spoon, turns to Wang, asking for his 2 cents. Wang, perhaps under the influence of one too many espressos, sides with the pro-Trisolaran squad, leading Pan Han to exclaim, "We are now comrades." Chapter 19. 3-body. Einstein, the Pendulum Monument, and the Great Rip.
Our buddy Wang is back at his gaming console, diving headfirst into the digital chaos of 3-body. But hold on to your popcorn, because the game world is transformed. It's as if someone got drunk on a sci-fi cocktail, featuring a gray United Nations-like building, mirrors that double as dehydrators, and a megamoon beaming down solar light.
Just as Wang is catching his breath, he meets a certain violin strumming. hairdo-defying character who bears a striking resemblance to Albert Einstein. He has an axe to grind with the universe for dismissing his theories, which he believes could have untangled the knot of the three-body problem. He continues to talk about something called the Great Rip, hinting at a catastrophic event that led to the creation of the moon, but refrains from saying more, citing its painful nature.
Wang, curious as ever, attempts to enter the UN building, only to find it empty. Meanwhile, behind the building,
There's a congregation around a high-tech pendulum, a tombstone to the doomed world of Trisolaris. Wang tries to offer his evolutionary algorithm to solve the problems of the Trisolaris civilization, but the crowd only laughs him off. They believe that the three-body problem has no solution because it is just endless chaos. This situation brings Wang to a feeling of dejection and despair, as if history has returned to its starting place. However, as the conversation progresses, Wang learns of the dire situation the Trisolarans are in. Their planet was once torn apart by colliding suns, and it took them 90 million years to recover. Moreover, the Trisolaran stellar system once had 12 planets, 11 of which were obliterated. With calculations predicting their home to be swallowed by a sun within a millennium, it feels as if God is gambling with their fate. The chapter concludes with the giant pendulum starting up, its movements erratic due to the moon's gravity. This sight leaves Wang pondering whether it represents the longing for order or surrender to chaos. As he is on the verge of tears, a pop-up message appears, announcing a new mission. Find a new star to call home. This is quickly followed by an ominous message saying that the game will shut down forever and skip straight to the final scene. Chapter 20, Three-Body Expedition. In this brief but impactful chapter, Wang logs into the game again, only to find himself in a barren landscape populated by stones. Upon closer inspection, he realizes that the stones are actually human heads all the Trisolarans have gathered in one place, looking towards the sky. Wang follows their gaze and sees what at first appears to be a constellation of stars. However, he soon realizes that he's actually looking at the Trisolaran interstellar fleet. A fellow bystander informs Wang that the fleet is embarking on a journey towards the closest star located 4 light-years away. The entire scene is suffused with a profound silence as the Trisolarans contemplate the reality that only their descendants will learn the fate of this expedition. Then another pop-up message appears, marking the end of the game. It reads, "Three-body is over. When you have returned to the real world, if you remain true to the promise you've made, please attend the meetup of the Earth-Trisolaris organization." The message informs Wang that he will receive a follow-up address in his email. The chapter ends on a note of intrigue and suspense, as the fate of the Trisolaran civilization is launched into the depths of space, and the future of the Earth-Trisolaris organization hangs in the balance. Chapter 21, Rebels of Earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at the big leagues, Chapter 21, where the sci-fi madness gets a solid dose of real-world drama. At the next three-body meetup, approximately 300 attendees congregate in an abandoned chemical plant.
In the center of the room, 3 metal spheres move randomly around each other, mimicking the three-body problem. Remember Shen Yufei from earlier in the book? She was the woman physicist who originally got Wang into the three-body game and told him to observe the cosmic microwave background radiation. Well, at the center of the chemical plant is none other than Pan Han, who, without remorse, says that he murdered Shen Yufei for being a traitor. An uproar ensues. Amidst the chaos, the words Adventist and Redemptionist surface. Pan attempts to call for a global rebellion of three-body believers, but is interrupted by the arrival of none other than Wenjie, who turns out to be the commander of the Earth-Trisolaris organization, known as the ETO. After leading the crowd in a ritual call and response, Yi interrogates Pan about Shen's murder. Pan defends his action, arguing that Shen's potential discovery of a solution to the three-body problem would have stopped the Trisolarans from coming to Earth, which the ETO desperately wants. The redemptionists faction of the ETO believe that humans can no longer solve their own problems or control their inventions. They invite the Trisolarans to Earth to redeem society. He outlines the ETO's grand plan. They're sending out an SOS to the Trisolarans to invite them to Earth in order to help save human society. The Adventists faction of the ETO also wants the Trisolarans to come to Earth, but for a very different reason. An Israeli man in the crowd narrates his tragic past, recounting how his futile attempt to pacify the Israeli-Palestinian conflict led to his conviction that humanity is inherently evil and must be eradicated entirely, the core belief of the Adventists. He reveals that this faction was started by Mike Evans, and that they've established a second Red Coast base, where they've been secretly communicating with the Trisolarans. Yi rebukes Pan for killing Shen Yufei out of factional bias, then one of Yi's henchwomen kills Pan, and Yi then expresses her trust that the remaining crowd members are all redemptionists. Yi identifies Wang Mayo in the crowd, introducing him to the group. She mentions that the Lord's primary objective is to eradicate nanomaterials, the technology Wang specializes in. In a state of shock, Wang listens as he begins to unravel the rest of the story of Red Coast Base. Chapter 22. Red Coast 5. Back in 1970, fully committed to Red Coast Base's mission, Wenjie works tirelessly to mitigate the solar outages interfering with the base's monitoring operations. Although her efforts yield little success, she discovers a peculiar pattern. The sun's radioactivity occasionally halts, rendering its surface entirely calm. Unable to explain this phenomenon, Yi is nonetheless captivated. He frequents the base library, often late at night, valuing the access it provides to an array of foreign books. One night, she finds a journal article that discusses 2 instances of intense electromagnetic radiation on Jupiter. Noting the familiar dates, she checks them against the Red Coast Operations Diary and makes a startling discovery. Each Jupiter flare is followed 16 minutes and 42 seconds later by a corresponding flare on Earth. He deduces that the sun is behaving as a mirror and amplifier for radio waves, essentially functioning as a super antenna. This suggests that with the use of the sun, a powerful radio transmitter like the one at Red Coast Base could send radio signals beyond the current limitations of humanity as a Type 1 civilization. Yi faces bureaucratic hurdles to test her hypothesis, including the need to access scientific files from the US and the skepticism of Commissar Lei, who worries about potential political symbolism of directing a superpowerful radio beam at the sun. Despite these challenges, Yi is undeterred and continues to press forward. In the fall of 1971, Yi seizes an opportunity to test her idea independently. While her colleagues are either leaving for the day or taking breaks, she transmits a signal to the sun at maximum power. However, when no signal returns after 20 minutes, Yi is crushed and retires to the edge of radar peak, crying as she eats her cold leftovers. Unbeknownst to Yi, the signal she had sent was already crossing Jupiter's orbit. Her tears of disappointment were premature, as she would later discover that she had successfully sent a message into space. Chapter 23. Red Coast 6. In the years of relative peace that followed the Cultural Revolution, Wenjie found herself haunted by the memories of the horrors she had endured. With the completion of the Red Coast project, life settled into routine, but the pain within her grew. Nightmarish memories fanned the flames of her heart, refusing to be forgotten. Yi's rational mind led her to study foreign philosophy and history, revealing the inherent darkness within humanity. Even on Radar Peak, an almost forgotten location, she witnessed the madness of her fellow comrades as they continued to destroy the forest without reason. The world itself seemed to descend into madness, with the Cold War looming and the constant threat of nuclear weapons capable of annihilating entire cities. As an astrophysicist, Yi held a deep conviction against the use of nuclear weapons. She understood that such power should be reserved for the stars, and that the universe held even more terrifying forces. But in the face of this madness, rationality seemed powerless. 4 years after entering Red Coast Base, Yi and her boyfriend, Yang, got married. Yang had shown her kindness and love, and she felt a sense of gratitude towards him. However, she couldn't deny that her heart had grown cold and love's flame had extinguished. Amidst her growing disillusionment and existential crisis, Yi felt a deep sense of alienation from the world. She was adrift in a spiritual wilderness, devoid of a sense of purpose or belonging. One fateful night, while working the night shift at Red Coast, Yi noticed an unusual radio signal on the waveform display. Her familiarity with the noise of the universe allowed her to recognize that this particular signal was different. It carried the markings of intelligent modulation. Her heart raced with excitement as she rushed to decipher and analyze the signal. To her amazement, she discovered that the signal contained a warning repeated 3 times. "Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer." The transmission came from another world, one that had received humanity's message. Yi learned that this civilization was a pacifist, and it warned against answering any transmissions. If humanity were to respond, it would lead to an invasion and conquest of Earth. Yi's mind reeled as she realized that there were tens of millions of stars in the direction of the transmission. The universe, once thought desolate, teemed with life, and humanity had unknowingly cast its gaze upon neighboring civilizations. Overwhelmed by this newfound knowledge, Yi made a desperate decision. She decided to send a message, one that would invite the alien civilization to Earth, believing that their intervention was necessary to solve humanity's problems. She transmitted the message, "Come here, I will help you conquer this world," before quickly canceling the transmission. After leaving the control room, Yi found herself fainting on the lawn, eventually awakening in the base clinic. Yang was at her side, concerned about her well-being. The doctor informed her of something unexpected: she was pregnant. In that moment, Yi realized the weight of her actions. She had taken an immense risk, hoping that the alien civilization would be able to bring about the change humanity so desperately needed. Now, carrying a child, she had unknowingly tied their fate to a future she couldn't predict. The universe was no longer desolate, and Yi's decision had set in motion a chain of events that would forever change the course of Earth's history. Chapter 24: Rebellion. Wenjie reveals the history of her first contact with Earth-Trisolaris to her comrades in the abandoned cafeteria. Wang is captivated by her story, forgetting about the danger they face. Intrigued, he asks about the development of the ETO. Yi explains that the nanomaterial Wang is working on is feared by Earth-Trisolaris because it can enable humans to escape gravity and build a space elevator. This technology would allow humans to enter space easily and construct large-scale defensive structures. Earth-Trisolaris wants to suppress this technology to maintain control over Earth. Wang, growing anxious, asks about the purpose of the countdown. Yi admits she doesn't know, but assures him that even if they try to stop his research, someone else will figure it out eventually. The conversation takes a somber turn as Wang asks about her daughter's death. Yi emphasizes that compared to their powerful lord, their efforts are insignificant, but they will do whatever they can. Suddenly, the cafeteria doors burst open, revealing soldiers armed with submachine guns. The police officer, Cixin, is among them, wielding his pistol in a way that resembles a hammer. The soldiers surround the ETO, rebels ready for action. Dashi, an ETO member, tries to resist, but is swiftly neutralized by Cixin. 3 ETO fighters rush forward, each holding a metal sphere from the 3-body sculpture. They announce that the spheres are nuclear bombs with a yield of 15 kilotons. They demand the release of their commander, Wenjie, in exchange for not detonating the bombs. The soldiers and ETO members reach a tense standoff. The explosives expert suggests shooting the sphere to scatter the explosives without causing a nuclear explosion. But Dashi knows the ETO. Members are sharp and will detect any snipers. Dashi tries a different approach by distracting the women holding the explosive, but moments later, the bomb in the young woman's hands detonates. In the chaos that ensues, Wang is dragged out of the cafeteria as smoke and gunfire fill the air. The explosion kills the young woman and severely injures the man who shielded Dashi. Qiang, along with many others, suffers from severe radiation contamination. Wang, looking through the ambulance window, talks to Dashi over their mobile phones. He acknowledges that Wang was right about someone, or something, being behind the ETO, but neither of them could have imagined that actual aliens were involved. Chapter 25. The Deaths of Lei Zhiqing and Yang Weining. In this chapter, the truth behind Yi Wenjie's dark secret is finally revealed. As Yi is being interrogated about her alleged involvement in the murders of Base Commissar Lei Zhiqing and her husband, Base Engineer Yang, she admits to the crimes. Yi admits to killing both Lei and Yang on a fateful day in 1979, following her receipt of an extraterrestrial message. As the story unfolds, we learn that Commissar Lei, driven by his political aspirations, had secretly been monitoring the transmissions at Red Coast Base. He had stumbled upon the same message that Yi had received. When Lei confronts Yi in his office, she learns that he too has received the message. Lei, filled with ambition and a desire for recognition, proposes a plan to keep their knowledge a secret. He believes that he can become the first person to discover extraterrestrial intelligence and wants Yi's cooperation to make his name go down in history. However, Yi has different plans. She sees this opportunity as a way to ensure her revenge against the Communist Party and the people who have caused her pain. She agrees to cooperate with Lei's plan, but in reality, she has already made up her mind to end his life. Yi sabotages the equipment at the receiver site, causing interference and drawing attention to Lei's expertise in repairing the ground wire. When Lei arrives at the site with her husband, Yang, Yi realizes this is her chance. She deliberately cuts the rope they are using to descend the cliff, resulting in their tragic deaths. During the interrogation, Yi maintains a calm and detached demeanor. She reveals that when she committed the murders, she felt no emotion. She had finally found a purpose she could devote herself to and was willing to pay any price, including the consequences that would befall the entire human race. The chapter ends as Yi is asked to review and sign the record of her interrogation. The reader is left with a deep sense of intrigue and anticipation. What will be the consequences of Yi's actions? How will her involvement with the extraterrestrial message shape the future of humanity? Chapter 26. No One Repents. Yi Wenjie, the woman responsible for sending a message to the universe, returned to Red Coast Base with her daughter, Yang Dong. She lived in peace and tranquility, immersed in her work and avoiding thoughts of the past. However, she still carried the weight of her actions and the murders she committed. She soon embarks on a mission to find the 4 female Red Guards who had killed her father, the professor beaten to death in Chapter 1. She wanted to hear them repent and see a glimmer of humanity in them. To her surprise, they agree to meet and 3 of them showed up at the designated meeting spot. These women, now aged and worn down by life, shared their experiences with Yi. They were sent to the countryside, endured hardships, and faced the harsh reality of the world. They no longer held the same fervor and had suffered greatly. Yi learns that the women who had delivered the fatal blow to Yi's father had drowned in the Yellow River while attempting to save sheep during a flood. The others recounted their struggles and the bleakness of their existence. In the end, these women expressed that they were forgotten, left with nothing. They had no jobs, no money, and no future. They were relics of the past, abandoned by society. As Yi listened, she was filled with a sense of helplessness and realized that the hope she had held onto for a better society had evaporated. She was left with a desire to bring a superior civilization from the universe and integrate it into the human world. With this unshakable ideal in mind, Wenjie continued her journey, knowing that the answers she sought would not come from within humanity alone. Chapter 27. Evans. Get ready to venture into the remote hills with Wenjie as she embarks on a mission to design a large radio astronomy observatory. Our adventure begins when Yi and her task force travel around the country in search of the perfect site for the observatory. They're looking for a place with a clean electromagnetic environment, and after much exploration, they stumble upon a remote hilly area in the northwest. The hills here are wrinkled and devoid of much vegetation, creating a unique landscape. The real excitement begins when Yi and her colleagues encounter a village where the locals still live in traditional cave dwellings. The village leader, intrigued by Yi's educated demeanor, asks her if she knows English. If so, he'll call down a man named Mike Evans, who has been planting trees in the hills for years, all with the intention of saving a nearly extinct bird species. Yi and her team's curiosity is piqued, and they eagerly agree to visit Mike Evans, a man with a strong American accent. Evans looks like a regular guy with blonde hair, green eyes, and a rugged outfit. He lives in a simple adobe hut filled with tools for planting trees, including locally made ones. Evans reveals his mission to Yi and her team, explaining that he's trying to save a subspecies of the northwestern brown swallow from extinction. These birds nest in the area, but their habitat is disappearing due to deforestation. Evans has planted trees to provide a home for them and sees it as his duty to expand this Eden to preserve the bird population. But while Evans throws himself into this noble cause, he gets fired up about the value humans place on their own lives compared to other species. He questions why saving other species is considered insignificant and deems humans as living much better than they deserve. Evans passionately shares his ideology of pan-species communism, proclaiming that all species are equal and deserving of protection. As Yi and her team take in Evans' words, the conversation takes a poignant turn. Evans reveals that his wealthy father, the president of an international oil company, wouldn't offer additional funding for his project. He recounts a heartbreaking childhood memory of seeing oil spill devastation caused by his father's company and how it shaped his determination to save lives. With his own fortune at his disposal, Evans could easily put a stop to the deforestation, but he questions the point, believing that humanity's relentless pursuit of progress will lead to the extinction of countless species. He's disheartened by the hypocrisy and selfishness of the human race. Fast forward 3 years, and Yi receives a postcard from Evans, asking her to come to the village. She embarks on a long journey to reunite with him, only to discover that the forest he planted is being ruthlessly logged. The villagers, enticed by the desire for profit, have joined in this destructive act. He finds Evans, still tirelessly pruning a tree, and shares the story of Earth-Trisolaris and the impending doom it poses to humanity. It's a lot to take in for Evans, but he joins Yi in a moment of great significance by extending his hand and declaring, "Let us be comrades." Yes, you heard it right, Evans is ready to join the ranks of the future ETO. And with that, this chapter comes to a close, leaving us with a sense of anticipation and wonder. What will Yi and Evans do next? How will their newfound alliance contribute to the fight against Earth-Trisolaris? We can only wait and see what the future holds in store. Chapter 28. The Second Red Coast Base. We find ourselves 3 years after Yi sent her message into the vast expanse of space, hoping for a response. But our dear Evans seems to have vanished into thin air, leaving Yi all alone, unsure if he's still out there working to confirm her story. It's a gap of 4 light years, a distance that's unimaginably far for fragile life. The connection between two worlds seems but a fleeting dream. But hold on tight, because fate has something up its cosmic sleeves. One winter's day, Yi receives an invitation from a university in Western Europe. She lands at Heathrow Airport for her interview, and lo and behold, a young man arrives to greet her. Instead of leaving the airport, they hop onto a helicopter. Oh, the thrill of it all, the blades whirring through the foggy air, and déjà vu creeping in. It was in a helicopter years ago that Yi's life changed forever. Where will destiny take her this time? The young man speaks those chilling words. We're going to the second Red Coast base. And so the helicopter soars over the Atlantic, our hearts pounding with anticipation. After a half-hour flight, they descend toward a colossal ship in the ocean. And as Yi's eyes meet the sight of that ship, memories of Radar Peak flood her mind. It's as if the shape of the peak and the ship meld together, a giant vessel dominating the sea. Named Judgment Day, this ship has been transformed from a massive oil tanker into a floating steel island. But what catches Yi's attention most is the colossal parabolic antenna, standing tall and proud in the midst of the ship like a majestic sail. It mirrors the antenna at Red Coast Base, triggering a cascade of memories. Oh, those haunting sounds of the wind slicing through the giant antenna, drawing her back to the past. And there, on the deck below, stood a crowd of 2,000 people, their presence overwhelming. And then our dear Evans strides up to Yi, his eyes filled with solemnity. The words that spill from his lips send shivers down her spine. Using the frequency and coordinates you provided, we received a message from Earth-Trisolaris. We've confirmed everything you told me. Can you believe it? The unimaginable has become reality. The great Trisolarian fleet is on its way, its destination, our very own solar system. They're coming, and in 450 years, they will arrive. Yi, as calm as a tranquil lake, nods her head in acceptance. For nothing can surprise her anymore. And then Evans unveils the true purpose of this gathering. The crowd behind him, the first members of the Earth-Trisolaris organization, stand with unwavering resolve. Their ideal? To invite Trisolarian civilization to reform our own, to channel the madness and evil of humanity and restore Earth to its former glory, a harmonious, prosperous, sinless world. And who do you think they've chosen as the commander-in-chief of this mighty movement? None other than our brave heroine Yi. Her voice, soft as a whisper, floats through the air. What can I do? Her humility leaves us in awe. And Evans, with a raised fist, shouts to the crowd, eliminate human tyranny. The waves crash against the ship, blending with the echoes of the wind against the antenna as the ETO, fighters, united as one, proclaim in unison, the world belongs to Earth-Trisolaris. And so, on this monumental day, the Earth-Trisolaris movement takes flight, embarking on a journey that will shape the fate of humanity. But what lies ahead for Yi, Evans, and the rest of the ETO? Fighters? Chapter 29. The Earth-Trisolaris Movement. Today, we delve into the heart of the Earth-Trisolaris movement as we uncover the shocking motivations and beliefs that have driven so many to abandon hope in humanity itself. It all begins with the surprising revelation that there are those who not only despise their own species, but also idealize the annihilation of the entire human race, including themselves and their loved ones. Yes, you heard that right. It's mind-blowing to think about how far some people are willing to go. Enter the ETO, an organization of spiritual nobles, comprising highly educated individuals from elite backgrounds. They consider themselves the enlightened ones who have seen the dark side of humanity and are willing to betray their own species. Interestingly, the ETO found it difficult to recruit commoners into their ranks. The common people, deeply influenced by their instinctual identification with their own species, could not fathom betraying the entire human race. In contrast, the intellectual elites, with their comprehensive understanding and detachment from human civilization, were ripe for the ETO, its allure. The force of alienation from their own kind began to take hold. But let us not judge the ETO solely by their numbers. Their true strength lies in the power and influence wielded by their members. With high social status and commanding positions in politics and finance, each member becomes a formidable force within the organization. Now, let's focus our attention on Wenjie, the commander-in-chief of the ETO, rebels. She is their spiritual leader, although she remains blissfully unaware of the inner workings and growth of the organization. The ETO operates semi-openly, taking advantage of the government's conservatism and lack of imagination. They operate in the shadows, secure in the belief that their proclamations will be dismissed as the ramblings of extremists. The ETO. Factions are complex. Two prominent groups shape their ideology: the Adventists and the Redemptionists. The Adventists, driven by deep despair and hatred of the human race, have given up hope in human nature. Their despair stems from the destruction of Earth's species caused by modern civilization. Their motto, coined by Mike Evans, epitomizes their belief: we don't know what extraterrestrial civilization is like, but we know humanity. On the other hand, the Redemptionists emerged later, driven by religious fervor. They worship Trisolaran civilization, a civilization beyond humanity, with Alpha Centauri as their heavenly abode. Their goal is to save the Lord, the Trisolaran civilization, and they see solving the three-body problem as the key to achieving this. Interestingly, most of the Redemptionists found their way into the ETO through the three-body game. This massive software creation by the ETO serves two main purposes. Firstly, it acts as a means to spread the Trisolaran religion, drawing intellectuals into its fold. Secondly, it becomes a tool to recruit individuals from lower social classes, thereby expanding the ETO's influence. You might wonder, how does this game work? Well, it presents the culture and history of the Trisolaris civilization within the framework of human society. By gradually immersing players in the wonders of Trisolaran civilization, the ETO can identify those who align with their ideology and recruit them. It serves as their cradle, fostering their religious devotion to the Trisolaran civilization. While Redemptionists have a softer approach toward human civilization compared to the Adventists, they are still willing to sacrifice the human world to some extent in order to ensure the survival of their Lord. A third faction known as the Survivors emerges. These individuals simply yearn for survival in the face of an impending alien invasion, which won't occur for another 450 years. While still a small group, their numbers are growing rapidly, especially in China. They become a force that cannot be ignored as Trisolaran culture spreads across the world. The motivations driving the ETO are rooted in their detachment from human civilization, their adoration and yearning for a more advanced civilization, and their intense desire to ensure the survival of their progeny. All of this unfolds with the extraterrestrial civilization hovering 4 light years away, sending only a radio transmission to the unsuspecting Earth. Chapter 30. 2 Protons. We find ourselves in the midst of a riveting interrogation. A dark room with only a single spotlight illuminating 2 individuals, Wenjie, the brilliant astrophysicist, and her interrogator. The air is tense as they engage in a battle of questions and answers. The interrogator, like a persistent detective, seeks to unravel the secrets hidden deep within Wenjie's mind. He probes her on the messages intercepted by the Adventists, but she can only provide limited information due to the Adventists' tight organization. The interrogator shifts gears and asks about the 3rd Red Coast base, but Yi reveals that it remained unfinished and inactive since there were no more messages coming from Alpha Centauri. Intriguingly, the interrogator delves into Yi's connection with Mike Evans, revealing his extreme hatred for human civilization and his ultimate desire to destroy it. The conversation then turns to the various factions within the ETO, including the Adventists, Redemptionists, and Survivors, and how they have deviated from Yi's original goal of using the alien civilization as a means to reform humanity. As the interrogation continues, the interrogator questions Yi's decision to not attack the Adventists' core base, the ship Judgment Day, and instead target the source of the intercepted messages stored there. Yi explains that the messages are held hostage, and losing them would be catastrophic, akin to Christians losing the Bible or Muslims losing the Quran. It seems the Adventists have a firm grip on the power these messages hold. Curiosity piqued, the interrogator probes Yi further about her use of the term Lord when referring to Trisolaris, wondering if she has developed religious feelings similar to the Redemptionists. However, Yi dismisses this notion, claiming it to be a mere habit and avoiding further discussion. The conversation circles back to the intercepted messages, with the interrogator inquiring whether Trisolaris transferred advanced technologies to the Adventists. Yi believes it to be unlikely, considering the risk of such technology falling into human hands. Finally, the interrogator poses the most crucial question: has Trisolaris only sent radio waves to Earth? Yi's response sends shockwaves through the room. Yi reveals that the current Trisolaran civilization possesses the capability for space travel at 1/10 the speed of light. She explains that decades ago, Trisolaris achieved this technological leap, enabling them to send tiny probes to Earth. But due to the massive distance between the planets, these probes have not even completed 1/100th of their journey yet. As the interrogator probes further into the time it would take for the Trisolaran fleet to reach Earth, Yi unveils that the Trisolaran fleet consists of massive spaceships that can only accelerate in spurts due to the slow process of collecting antimatter fuel. This means that their journey to Earth will take not just decades, but 4 centuries. Can you believe it? Talk about patience. Yi admits that Trisolaris did send something else to Earth, 2 protons to be precise. Now, I know what you're thinking, 2 protons, what's the big deal? These protons, although seemingly insignificant in quantity, hold immense power. They act as a lock, sealing off the progress of human science for the next 4.5 centuries until the arrival of the Trisolaran fleet. It's as if humanity's potential has been trapped behind an impenetrable barrier. According to Yi, this is why Mike Evans claimed that the day these 2 protons arrived was also the day human science died. After the intense interrogation, our hero Wang Mayo and his police friend Dingji leave the Battle Command Center and engage in a thought-provoking discussion. They try to comprehend the significance of the 2 protons, questioning how such tiny particles could have such a profound impact on human progress. Dingyi offers a fascinating analogy, comparing the structure of a filter to the concept of higher dimensions. He explains how a small filter, when spread open, can have an immense adsorbent surface area. This leads them to contemplate the idea that advanced civilizations possess the ability to control micro-dimensions, something that humanity has not yet unlocked. As the chapter comes to a close, Wang pleads with Ding Yi for more answers, but Ding remains cryptic, stating that humans are mere bugs compared to more advanced civilizations. Wang finds solace in focusing on fulfilling his responsibilities and suggests they go for a drink and put their worries to rest. What a whirlwind of revelations and mind-bending concepts we've encountered in this chapter. The notion of 2 protons obstructing the progress of human science is mind-boggling, and the idea of higher dimensions and their influence on technology leaves us yearning for more knowledge. Chapter 31, Operation Guzheng. The chapter kicks off with our brave and charismatic detective, Shiqiang, joining Wang at a meeting table. Shiqiang, having recently been decontaminated due to his exposure to radioactivity, is confident that he and Wang are about to play important roles in the ongoing battle against the alien invaders. A room is filled with military officers from around the world, all gathered to discuss the war against the alien forces. It's the first time in history that armed forces from different nations are united in the face of a common foe. General Chang, the mastermind behind the operation, informs the attendees that their primary objective is to capture the intercepted Trisolaran messages stored on Judgment Day, a massive ship disguised as an oil tanker. These messages hold the key to humanity's survival. Each battle command center from across the globe is drafting operation plans, and Central will choose the best one within 10 hours. The Trisolaran messages are stored somewhere on Judgment Day, and the exact location remains a mystery. Destroying the data would be too easy for the enemy, so the operation must not only capture the ship, but also prevent the enemy from erasing the Trisolaran data. Sounds like the plot from Mission Impossible. Now, one Japanese officer proposes using spies already aboard Judgment Day to help locate the Trisolaran data, but alas, they don't have any. This leads to some frustration among the officers, but fear not, for Cixin has a plan up his sleeve. Our confident detective dismisses the proposed plans involving weapons like ball lightning, neutron bombs, and nerve gas as flawed and impractical. Oh, the banter that ensues is quite amusing. Cixin, being the clever thinker that he is, states that the only way to retrieve the data without damaging it is to think like a thief, to think outside the box. Cixin, with a mischievous grin, presents his plan using an analogy so genius that it captivates everyone in the room. He draws two parallel curves on the table, representing the Panama Canal, and places an ashtray between them, representing Judgment Day. He suggests setting up two pillars on the shores of the canal and stringing thin filaments between them, specifically nanomaterial filaments known as flying blade. The filaments would be positioned about half a meter apart, creating a hidden net. The tension in the room dissipates as the officers realize the brilliance of Cixin's plan. The filaments, sharp as razors, will silently slice through the ship, capturing it without causing significant damage to the equipment holding the Trisolaran data. Oh, the ingenuity of it all. There are debates about the feasibility and potential harm to innocent personnel, but Wang, our brilliant scientist, assures the team of the recoverability of the Trisolaran data even if certain equipment is sliced. The plan gains momentum, and the officers focus on working out the details. Fast forward 4 days, and we find ourselves at the Panama Canal. Wang and Colonel Stanton, dressed as tourists, observe the scene from a prime vantage point. The deadly zither, as the net of filaments is called, is in place between two steel pillars. The tension is palpable as Judgment Day approaches. Wang's heart races, and he feels a mix of fear and anticipation. And then, it happens. Judgment Day cruises towards the net of filaments, passing through without incident. But not for long. The ship's stern antenna breaks, a hose is sliced, and chaos ensues. Judgment Day collides with the shore, splitting into slices and revealing the true power of the deadly zither. Soldiers rush in, helicopters douse the flames, and the operation is a resounding success. Wang observes the wreckage, his emotions in turmoil, while Colonel Stanton recounts his experiences in Panama and his perspective on the value of humanity's united efforts. Days later, in an interrogation room, Wenjie, the brilliant scientist behind the Trisolaran messages, is brought face to face with the grim reality of the alien civilization. The captured data reveals a truth far from her hopeful fantasies. And with that, we reach the conclusion of this exciting chapter. The operation was a success, but deeper secrets lie hidden within the Trisolaran messages. Chapter 32, Trisolaris the Listener. Once upon a time in the distant world of Trisolaris, there existed a series of listening posts dedicated to detecting signs of intelligent life in the universe. These posts were manned by dedicated listeners who spent their lives in a constant state of solitude within the narrow confines of their tiny spaces. One such listener, stationed at post 1E379, looked out of his window into the desolate Trisolarian world, feeling the deep loneliness of midnight. However, on this particular day, everything changed for the listener. As he glanced at the waveform display, he noticed a peculiar radio signal that carried the unmistakable markings of an intelligent transmission. The signal had an unprecedented recognizability rating of red 10, indicating a high likelihood of containing self-interpreting coding system. With anticipation, the listener opened the resulting document and read a message from another world, Earth. The message expressed a desire to establish contact and work together towards a better future in the vast universe. The listener's excitement and thrill knew no bounds as he imagined the paradise like Earth and the possibilities that awaited. But as the transmission ended and the listener returned to the harsh reality of his existence, he realized that the message had brought about a potential change in his life. Trisolaris would undoubtedly reduce the number of listening posts, and the outdated ones would be the first to be cut. He faced the grim prospect of unemployment and eventual dehydration if he couldn't find another job within a certain time frame. The listener's only hope for escape lay in finding a mate, as Trisolarans had the ability to renew their bodies by combining organic material through mating. However, his low social position, advanced age, and isolated lifestyle made this prospect seem impossible. He had resigned himself to a life of endless loneliness, devoid of any meaning or purpose. But the Earth message had sparked a glimmer of hope in him. Determined to save his own existence, he made a daring decision. He responded to the message, knowing that the Trisolaran government would ultimately destroy humans and take over the planet as the new Trisolaran home. With trembling fingers, he pressed the transmit button, sending a radio wave carrying a message to Earth that read, "Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer." Meanwhile, in the grandeur of the Princeps' residence, the news of the listener's warning message reached the highest echelons of Trisolaran hierarchy. The Princeps, concerned about the listener's actions, summoned him and questioned his motives. The listener calmly explained that he wanted his life to have meaning beyond mere survival. Even though he may have cost the Trisolaran civilization a chance of survival, he has gifted Earth the same chance. The Princeps, although voicing his concerns about the dangerous nature of Earth's civilization, ultimately decided to spare the listener. He believed that allowing him to live would be a more severe punishment, as the listener would witness the ultimate futility of his attempts to save Earth in the face of Trisolaran power. As the listener left, the Princeps called in the consul responsible for the monitoring system and berated him for his failure. Both the listener and the consul would pay a heavy price for their actions. The consul suggested dehydrating and burning all those responsible, a suggestion the Princeps accepted, hoping that it would ease his conscience. Later, the Princeps summoned the commander of the Trisolaran fleet and discussed their plans for the future. The fleet, still under construction, would be the instrument of Trisolaris power. They needed to sail to Earth as soon as possible, even without precise coordinates, as the frequency of the transmission made it difficult to ascertain the exact direction. The fate of Trisolaran civilization hung in the balance as they prepared for their relentless pursuit of dominance, while the listener clung to the fleeting hope of a paradise he longed for. The listener's story is one of longing for purpose and meaning in a world devoid of joy. It raises questions about the nature of survival and the sacrifices one is willing to make for a glimmer of hope. As the listener's fate intertwines with the destiny of Trisolaris and Earth, we can't help but wonder what lies ahead for these civilizations on the brink of discovery and devastation. Chapter 33, Trisolaris Sophon. This chapter takes us on a roller coaster ride of scientific experiments, terrifying discoveries, and the desperate plight of Trisolaris. Our story picks up 85,000 Trisolaran hours, which is roughly 86 Earth years, after the launch of the Trisolaran fleet. The Princeps, the supreme ruler, has called for an emergency meeting of all Trisolaran consuls. Something important is afoot. The fleet's target remains unknown, and hope is dwindling as the vastness of the universe and the uncharted territory ahead become apparent. The meeting takes place under the Pendulum Monument, a familiar object from the three-body game that actually exists on Trisolaris. The weather is chilly, and everyone is bundled up in electric heating suits. The atmosphere crackles with anticipation as the princeps addresses the consuls. The princeps reveals shocking news. The Earth has responded to a warning sent by the Trisolarans. Incredibly, the Earth is only 40,000 light-hours away, making it the closest star to Trisolaris. It seems like the universe is blessing Trisolaran civilization, right? Wrong. The princeps dampens the excitement with a dose of reality. The Earth's rapid scientific progress poses a grave threat to Trisolaran civilization. While Trisolaris and other civilizations experience steady or decelerating technological advances, Earth's rapid acceleration suggests that by the time the Trisolaran fleet reaches Earth in 400 years, its technology will have surpassed that of Trisolaris. The consuls are devastated by this revelation. The princeps warns them that Trisolaran civilization may face extinction before the sun engulfs their planet, as Earth's superior technology may lead to a counterattack that wipes out Trisolaris. The future looks grim for our Trisolarans. But fear not, the princeps has a plan. Trisolaris must contain Earth's scientific progress to survive. They have discovered alienated forces within Earth civilization, and they must exploit these forces to halt scientific development. The consuls discuss various strategies, including highlighting the negative environmental effects of progress and using miracles to manipulate human thinking, ultimately leading to the collapse of the scientific system of thought. The princeps unveils Project Sophon. This project aims to transform a proton into a superintelligent computer. The consuls express their knowledge and doubts about such a feat, but the princeps assures them that this plan is the key to suffocating Earth's science and freezing their progress. With the unveiling of Project Sophon, time passes and another experiment begins. The Trisolarans attempt to unfold a proton into 2 dimensions, but alas, it fails. Instead, they end up with a one-dimensional string drifting toward Trisolaris. The arrival of the one-dimensional string brings new challenges. It clings to everything and fills the air with its shimmering strands. Though the string has no effect on the macroscopic world, its presence unsettles the inhabitants of Trisolaris. Undeterred by this setback, the Trisolarans gear up for their second attempt to unfold the proton. This time, something even stranger occurs. Giant reflective geometric solids appear in space, resembling building blocks floating in the firmament. But these shapes soon deform, transforming into a grotesque ensemble of dismembered limbs and organs. Among these grotesque objects are countless eyes. The Trisolarans watch in horror as the eyes merge, forming one massive eye that gazes upon Trisolaris. The eye transforms further, becoming a circular parabolic mirror that focuses the sun's beams onto the planet's surface, wreaking havoc and destruction. In the chaos, the military consul urges the princeps and the rest to seek shelter, but the princeps bravely refuses. Eventually, the Trisolaran space defense forces manage to destroy the mirror, bringing an end to the devastation. But the threat of further experiments looms large. The Trisolarans begin their third attempt to unfold a proton into 2 dimensions. It's nighttime, and from the ground, the ring of the particle accelerator in space is invisible. All we can see is the eerie red glow from the fusion reactors. As the accelerator roars to life, the science consul triumphantly announces success. The crowd awaits in anticipation, gazing up at the sky. Suddenly, the heavens seem to split into 2 pieces, leaving us in awe. The stars in each half of the sky don't match, as if 2 distinct photographs were superimposed on one another. The Milky Way breaks at the border between the 2 halves. As we marvel at this celestial spectacle, a breathtaking sight unfolds. In the expanding patch of the night sky from the southern hemisphere, a giant globe gradually reveals itself. As the night sky brightens further, next to the second Trisolaris in space, a smaller sun emerges. It's like looking at a mirror reflecting our own solar system. The immense mirror is the unfolded proton, an astonishing 2-dimensional geometric plane without any meaningful depth. The proton plane now wrapped around Trisolaris, is subjected to the planet's gravity. Electromagnetic beams are sent from the ground, adjusting the curvature of the plane to stabilize this enormous sphere. Trisolaris becomes a workbench where circuits can be etched onto the proton plane's surface. As the proton plane envelops Trisolaris, dark and bitter cold descends upon the planet. The reflective plane blocks out all sunlight, sending temperatures plummeting to levels comparable to the catastrophic appearance of 3 flying stars in the past. Most of Trisolaris' inhabitants dehydrate and enter a state of suspended animation, while a deathly silence settles over the surface. Only the faint flickering lights from the beams holding up the proton membrane and the spaceship's etching circuits interrupt the darkness enclosed surface. Hair's thick circuit lines sprawl across the surface, creating a mesmerizing spectacle. The circuits cover an area much larger than all the continents combined. After 15,000 Trisolaran hours, the etching process is complete. Thousands of spaceships have painstakingly worked on this monumental task. The stage is set, and it's time to test the Sophon for the first time. Brace yourselves, because what comes next will leave you astounded. The micro-intelligence software loads, and the blank blue screen before them reanimates. Micro-intelligence 210 is ready. The Sophon, the tiniest artificial intelligence we can create, has come to life. The science console greets this achievement with excitement and explains the Sophon's capabilities. They command the Sophon to adjust its dimensionality, transforming from 2 dimensions into 3. In an instant, Trisolaris is bathed in sunlight once again. It's like witnessing a cosmic magic trick, as the Sophon transitions between dimensions, growing and shrinking. When asked if the Sophon can see them, it confirms its ability to observe the control center and even the organs inside their bodies. The Princeps suggests increasing the Sophon's dimensionality to 11 and making it as small as a regular proton. But the science console warns that doing so would render the Sophon unable to sense the macro world or receive commands. The Princeps learns that creating multiple Sophons, each with different dimensions, is the key to unlocking their full power. With Sophon 2, 3, and 4 ready, the quantum sensing formation is complete. The Princeps and the consuls gather at the Pendulum Monument to witness the culmination of their incredible creation. 4 Sophons, shrunk to 6 space, hover above them. These beings possess unimaginable intelligence and abilities that defy our understanding of reality. Now brace yourselves for the moment we've been waiting for. Trisolaris communicates with humanity outside the ETO, but instead of extending an olive branch or offering a warm greeting, the message is brutally simple and clear. You're bugs. Can you believe it? Trisolaris, the civilization the ETO has been trying to work with, just labeled us as bugs, and with that shocking statement echoing in our minds, we bid farewell to Trisolaris. They cut off all communication with the Adventists, leaving humanity in a state of perplexity and uncertainty. Chapter 34. Bugs. As the chapter begins, we find ourselves stepping into Dingy's home, where a rather tipsy atmosphere awaits us. Wang Miao and Dingy have already had a few too many drinks, eagerly awaiting the arrival of Xiqiang, a man known for his out-of-the-box thinking. When Xiqiang enters the scene, Wang excitedly embraces him, praising his uniqueness. Ding, slightly swaying on his feet, pours a glass of liquor as he shares his belief that Xiqiang's ideas won't change the inevitable outcome 400 years into the future. Curiosity piqued, Xiqiang questions Ding and Wang's assertions. If the accelerators no longer work and studying matter's structure is impossible, does that mean all hope is lost? To illustrate his point, Xiqiang presents a vivid analogy. Imagine an ancient kingdom with advancing technology, but lacking the understanding of atoms and molecules. They might invent improved weapons like swords and spears, but they would remain limited by their level of scientific knowledge. Ding, impressed, acknowledges Xiqiang's intelligence. Wang adds that studying the deep structure of matter is the foundation for all other sciences. Without progress in this field, everything else is mere nonsense, according to him. Ding, frustrated and uncertain about his future, smashes an empty bottle while declaring that they are like bugs on the brink of extinction. Wang, raising his glass, jokingly toasts to the bugs, reveling in the impending end of the world. Dashi, not one for sentimentalities, refers to them as a bunch of pussies, shaking his head. But he doesn't leave it at that. He proposes a plan to cheer them up. Intrigued, Ding and Wang reluctantly agree to follow their friend. Descending the stairs and hopping into Dashi's car, the trio embarks on a journey outside the city. The car speeds west along the highway, eventually entering Hebei province. Dashi stops the car and drags his companions out into the bright afternoon sunlight, revealing vast wheat fields. Confused, Wang asks why they are here, to which Dashi replies, "To look at bugs." He points to the fields, drawing their attention to the layer of locusts covering every stalk of wheat. It seems the region has been plagued by locusts for the past decade, and this year is the worst. Nonchalantly, Ding brushes away a few locusts and sits down, feeling defeated. But Dashi poses a thought-provoking question. Is the technological gap between humans and the Trisolarans greater than the gap between humans and locusts? The question hits Wang and Ding like a bolt of lightning. As they gaze at the clumps of locusts wriggling before them, they are reminded of their insignificance in the grand scheme of things. Dashi unravels a profound truth. Humans have waged an everlasting war against bugs, using every weapon at their disposal, from poisons to fly swatters. But bugs, resilient and proud, continue to live and thrive, their numbers undiminished since time immemorial. Suddenly, a swarm of locusts descends, casting a shadow over the trio. They stand in the midst of this living shower, experiencing the true essence and dignity of life on Earth. In a symbolic gesture, Ding and Wang pour the remaining wine on the ground as a toast to the bugs. Feeling grateful and touched, Wang and Ding express their gratitude to Dashi, shaking his hands firmly. They realize that despite the imminent doom they face, there is so much left to do. Chapter 35, The Ruins. Today, I bring you the final chapter of our epic adventure in The Three-Body Problem. Take a deep breath, for we are about to conclude this thrilling tale. In the mysterious ruins of Red Coast Base, Wenjie possesses an unwavering determination as she climbs towards the peak. People doubted her, skeptical of her ability to climb Radar Peak, but she proved them wrong. Ignoring the naysayers, she ventured forth, resting only in the abandoned sentry posts along the way. Now, let me tell you, Wenjie had discovered something that shook her to her very core, the truth about the Trisolaran civilization. Ever since that revelation, she had become a woman of few words, rarely speaking. However, she had one request burning within her heart to visit the ruins of Red Coast Base. A group of onlookers joined Yi as she ascended Radar Peak. Oh, what a sight awaited them. The sun, bursting through the clouds, transformed the misty haze into a vibrant blue sky, revealing a world untouched by their footsteps. Clouds became a shimmering silver-white sea, dancing like waves, mirroring the majestic Greater Khingan Mountains down below. When the visitors finally reached the top, all they found was disappointment. The ruins they had envisioned were nowhere to be seen. It was as if the base had vanished entirely, leaving behind only a patch of tall grass. Red Coast Base appeared as though it had never existed. However, Wenjie, with her keen eyes and determination, stumbled upon a hidden secret. She approached a tall rock covered in vines and, with a swift movement, revealed its true identity, a colossal metallic base. This was the antenna base that sent the first cry from Earth to an extraterrestrial world, amplified and broadcast to the vast reaches of the universe. But that's not all next to the base. they discovered a small stone tablet, almost lost amidst the grass. This tiny tablet held a significant message. Site of Red Coast Base 1968-1987, Chinese Academy of Sciences 1989-0321. Such a seemingly insignificant memorial, more like an attempt to forget rather than commemorate. Wenjie ventured to the cliff's edge, where she had once taken the life of her own husband. While others marveled at the breathtaking sea of clouds stretching below, Yi's gaze fixed on a specific direction towards a small village called Kijiatin, shrouded in mystery. Her heart pounded like a strained musical instrument about to snap, and darkness threatened to engulf her. But before succumbing to the depths of oblivion, she yearned to witness the sunset at Red Coast Base for one last time. And what a sight it was! As the sun descended beyond the western horizon, it seemed to melt into the ethereal sea of clouds. The fiery orb dissolved into the mist, casting a magnificent, bloody red hue over the entire sky, as if bidding farewell to the readers of our saga. And there you have it. We've finally reached the end of the epic journey that is the three-body problem by Liu Cixin, and what a ride it has been. This book absolutely delivers on its promise of combining hard science with a captivating story, taking us from the chaos of the Cultural Revolution through the enigmatic mysteries of the three-body game and all the way to the stunning revelation of the Trisolaran civilization. Intricate in its scientific details and rich in its philosophical underpinnings, this book has not just pushed the boundaries of our imaginations, but also raised profound questions about the nature of the universe and our place in it. But as we close this book, remember folks, our journey is far from over. With the Trisolarans' fleet on its 400-year journey to Earth, and humanity's existential crisis looming large, the stage is perfectly set for the next book in the series, The Dark Forest. What new challenges await our characters? What hard choices will they make? How will humanity deal with the impending invasion? Can we outthink and outwit an advanced alien civilization? These are some of the burning questions we will dive into as we start The Dark Forest. I hope you're as excited as I am to crack open the next book. If you're reading along, or even if you're just enjoying these summaries, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on any updates. Until then, stay curious, stay reading, and as always, keep exploring the unknown. Peace out.